All right, good morning. Test Friday, don't forget. Today we're gonna do trigonometry word problems. You guys love word problems, right? Nobody likes word problems. So today we're doing trigonometry word problems. We're gonna start by talking about angles of elevation and angles of depression. So if I have an airplane flying up in the sky, and he is looking down on the people, that's called an angle of depression. If he's on the ground, the guy's on the ground, and he's looking up at the airplane, that's called an angle of elevation. Now, the thing about the angle of depression and the angle of elevation, they are always equal to each other because those angles are alternate interior angles. So they always equal each other. So whether your work today says angle of depression or angle of elevation, they're always the same. They equal each other. So it really doesn't matter. But we are going to decide which angle, what each angle is. So like right here, if I'm in the lighthouse and I'm looking down on the boat, would that be an angle of elevation or angle of depression?
Depression.
Depression. If you're on the boat and you're looking up at the lighthouse, elevation. So on your first two problems, you're just going to decide if it's angle of elevation or angle of depression. You can put D or E. Just the letter D or the letter E. So if I'm flying in the sky on these birds and I'm looking down on the boat, what kind of angle would that be?
D.
Depression, D. But I'm on the boat looking up at the birds, elevation. If I'm on the boat and I'm looking down at the submarine, depression, and the submarine looking up at the boat, elevation. And remember, those angles always equal each other. So it doesn't matter whether it says elevation or depression. So I'll let you do number 2. It spells Dee. So numbers 3, well, really this whole front page is just review of trigonometry. So if you just want to write out SOHCAHTOA, you guys remember how to spell SOHCAHTOA? Write out SOHCAHTOA. And then like if you're looking at number 3, what is this side across from the right angle called? Hypotenuse. What is this side across from your angle called? Opposite. So I have O and H. So which trig function would it be? So sin 20. You have to put O on top of H. So x over 100. X is up high. Multiply 100 times sin 20. And yep, 34.2. So this is review. If you look at 7 through 10, it gives you an angle of depression. But I want you to remember that the angle of depression and the angle of elevation are the same. These two angles right here always equal each other. So if this angle is 26, this angle down here is 26. If this angle is 40, this angle right here is 40. 27, 27, 18, 18. So if you want to make a note of that. And then like if I'm looking at number 7, do you see that there's no hypotenuse? Which one's no hypotenuse? Tan. So tan 24. You have to do opposite over adjacent. So which side's your opposite side? Opposite that angle.
It's 26.
Huh? Oh, the angle's 26. Yeah, that's my hump. Did I say 20?
It's 26.
26. What side's opposite the 26 degrees?
25.
25. Yeah, 25 over x. So I need to change that to a 26. Thank you. My hump made it look like a 24. Doesn't it look like that?
Yeah.
So x is on bottom. What do? Divide. So 25 divided by tan 26. Plus, I'm really tired today. Are you guys tired today?
Yeah.
I'm like extra tired for some reason. 51.3. And then I feel like these few right here have pictures because it's going to lead us into our word problems, but it's still all the same. There's no hypotenuse on this one. So how would you set up number 11? Which function would that be if there's no hypotenuse? So tan 25. Which side is your opposite side? X. X over 250. X is up high. Multiply 250 times tan 25. 116.6. Yep. Okay, so all of this part should be review. We are going to talk about word problems today. So the thing about trigonometry word problems, which I like, is every single problem you have a right triangle, because that's the only kind of trigonometry we know how to do right now. So every single problem you have a right triangle. What you're going to have to do is figure out where everything goes. So the angle that they give you, whether it's angle of elevation or angle of depression, is always going to go in this bottom corner by the right angle, okay? Every time. I don't care if it says angle of depression or angle of elevation, because your angle of depression is up here, and those two angles always equal each other. Angle of elevation right here. So no matter what today, your angle will always go by that right angle, okay? So every single problem, you have a right triangle. Your angle is always going to go in the same spot. You just have to decide where everything else goes. So like this one says, you sight a rock climber on a cliff at a 32-degree angle of elevation. The horizontal ground distance is 1,000 feet. So that's why the 1,000's on the bottom. Does that make sense? Horizontal ground distance. Or then it says the line of sight. So if you're looking up at the mountain, do you see that your line of sight would be the hypotenuse? Does that make sense? So then, once you have all the information, then you can set up your trigonometry problem. So on this one, I know this side's my hypotenuse. What is this side? Adjacent. So which trig function would we use? Cos. Cos 32 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. X is on bottom, so what would I do? Divide. 1,000 divided by cos 32. So 1,179.2. Whoops. Okay. So it's all word problems. I think I just have like a couple more. This one says an airplane pilot sights a life raft at a 26-degree angle of depression. So I wanted to put an angle of depression problem on because I want to make sure you realize that angle still always go right down here by the right angle. Because the angle of depression and the angle of elevation are always the same. The airplane's altitude is height, is 3 kilometers. What is the airplane's surface distance from the raft? Surface distance from the raft. So I would put it on bottom. So I wouldn't want this distance from the raft since it says surface distance. So there's no hypotenuse. Which one would we use? Tan. Tan 26. Tan is opposite over adjacent, so 3 over D. D is on bottom. So divide. 3 divided by tan 26. 3 divided by tan 26. Are you guys getting pretty good at figuring out whether it's sine, cosine, or tangent now? Yeah. Good. Okay. I might have one more. One more. So it says a blimp is providing aerial television views of a football game. The television camera sights the stadium at a 7-degree angle of depression. So again, no matter what, put that angle down by the right angle. It says the blimp's altitude is 400 meters. Line of sight distance, so line of sight distance would be the hypotenuse. And then you do your trig. So I'm going to help you set up a bunch of your word problems today. I already showed you those. I thought it was funny. I don't know if you guys get it. Your Honor, the defense would like to call a surprise witness. Did you guys ever have a Jack?
Yeah.
Those things scare me.
They scare me too. Surprise witness. So he's gonna jump out. Okay, let's look. Let's look at some of these word problems. Let's look at number 14. So it says a person standing 30 feet from a flagpole can see the top of the pole at a 35-degree angle of elevation. Draw a diagram, and then if the person's eye level is 5 feet from the ground, find the height of the flagpole. So if you want, you can draw a picture, or you can just always draw a right triangle. Every single time, it's going to be a right triangle. So I've got this flagpole, but again, remember, it's always going to be a right triangle. So if you just want to draw a right triangle every time. It says the angle of elevation is 35 degrees. Where does the angle always go? Yeah, always. Always by the right angle. So I drew my diagram. He's standing 30 feet away from the flagpole. So where would the 30 go? Bottom. And then it says the person's eye level is 5 feet from the ground. So he's 5, or she is 5 feet tall. He or she is 5 feet tall. So what I'm going to do is after I find this length right here, I'm going to add 5 feet to it. Does that make sense? So if he's 5 feet off the ground, so I'm just going to find this piece right here, which would only be part of the flagpole. So I'm going to have to add 5 more feet to it because he's 5 feet off the ground. Does that make sense? Let's do trigonometry. Find this piece, and then he's 5 feet off the ground. So my triangle's really kind of like up in the air. So there's no hypotenuse. Which one would I use? Tan. So tan 35. What over what? X is up high. What do we do? So 30 times tan 35. 30 times tan 35 is 21. So that's just going to mean that this piece right here is 21, but since our guy is 5 feet off the ground, what's the total height of the flagpole? 26. 26 feet. You won't, most of your problems you won't have to add to it. I think there's one other one you'll have to add. All right, so main thing on all of your word problems is you are going to have a right triangle. So if there's not already one drawn, what I would do is draw a right triangle for every single problem. So you're going to have a right triangle for every problem. Now number 17, there's already one there. So like if there's not one there, I would draw. And then do you guys remember where the angle always goes? You guys remember? You guys are tired today too, aren't you? So yeah, bottom. So like this one, the 41 degrees will go there. This one, it says what is the degrees? So my degrees is actually going to be X. And then the hard part, I think, is to figure out where everything else goes. So like on 15, it says a meteorologist measures an angle of elevation to a weather balloon. So here's my little weather balloon. I just made a balloon. And so then I've got this guy over here, my meteorologist. So it says, how high above the ground is the balloon? So where would my X go?
The tall part.
The tall part. So I already know X is there. It says a radio signal from the balloon indicates that it is 1503 meters from his location. So there's the balloon, there's the guy. Where would the 1503 go? Hypotenuse, yes. So the balloon and then his location. So now that it's set up, you can do your trigonometry to solve that. So like on 16, it says the world's tallest unsupported flagpole is 282 feet tall. So where would 282 go? The side. And then it says the shortest shadow. Where's a shadow? If you ever see your shadow, where's the shadow? On the ground. So my shadow would be down here. It's not the hypotenuse. It's actually on the ground. And then you're going to have to solve. So every single one of these problems, you have a right triangle. You have to figure out where everything else goes. And then you solve it. If you don't know the angle, do you remember which button to push in the calculator? Second. Okay. I do want to do 17 because it's a little tricky. My building is like, I don't know, it's disappeared on here. There's the other building. Can you see the other building on yours? Yeah, okay. So it says 2 office buildings are 51 meters apart. The height of the taller building is 207 meters. The angle of depression from the top of the taller building to the top of the shorter building is 15 degrees. So I've got the 15 degrees here. I'm going to redraw that triangle over here so we can see it. So I'm going to put the 15 degrees there also. So it'll be right down here. And this is 51. I want to know the height of this building right here. So if I use trigonometry and find this piece right here, and I know this whole building is 207 meters, if I find that piece, could I just subtract that off? And then that would be the height of that building. Does that make sense? Okay, so would I use sine, cosine, or tangent? Tan. So tan 15. What over what? X over 51. X is up high. Multiply 51 times tan 15. $13.7. So we could say 13.7. So if you know this is 207, if you do 207 minus 13.7, you're going to get the height of this building. And it says find the height of the building to the nearest meter.
194.
So to the nearest meter, what would you guys say, 193 or 194?
193.
I would say 193, yeah.
I went one off.
That's okay, and I wouldn't count it wrong.
I put minus 12.
For 18, the triangle's already there. You're finding this height right here. You want me to help you set up some of these others if the triangle's not there? I'm trying to think if there's... So every single problem, you're going to need a right triangle. Every problem, right triangle. I'm trying to remember ones that were hard. Let's talk about 22. So a dog is on the ground watching a cat. So I got my dog. I got my cat that's on the top of a 6-foot high wall. Where would the 6 feet go? The side. Says the angle of elevation is 50 degrees, so angle always goes in the same spot. About how far from the wall is the dog? It doesn't say how far from the cat is the dog, how far from the wall is the dog. So where would the X go?
The bottom.
On the bottom, okay. And then you would solve it from there. Oh, 24 might be the one where you have to add. Let's do 24. So, let's see. I've got a tree. And I've got a 6-foot tall man. Okay, so a 6-foot tall man stands 10 feet from the base of the tree. Oh, I guess I don't have to add on this one. Because he stands 6 feet from the base of the tree. Angle of elevation is 84 degrees. How tall is the tree? So I don't even need to worry about the, oh, and he stands 10 feet, not 6 feet, 10 feet away. Now it says, what's the angle of depression from the top of the tree?
84.
84, good. Angle of elevation, angle of depression, always the same. Good. I'm glad you guys noticed that. Okay. How do you guys like word problems? If you guys need help, let me know. If you need help, let me know. If you want me to look to make sure you have it set up right, let me know.
Angle of depression is 84, right?
Yes, they're always the same. Yes.